Hello there, I am a man of 58 years. Today, as the March sun casts long shadows across my small garden, I find myself looking back. Not with regret, but with a quiet understanding that only time can offer. It feels as though I have walked a very long road, one filled with many twists and turns. My journey has been a lesson, a story I feel compelled to share with you. I invite you to sit with me for a moment, to listen to the whispers of a life lived. It is a story about choices, about the things we chase, and about the things we find when we finally stop running. At your age, perhaps you feel an endless horizon stretching before you. I remember that feeling well. It is a powerful force, that sense of infinite possibility. For me, that horizon was paved with what I thought was gold. I believed that success was a number in a bank account, a number that had to keep growing. I measured my worth by the size of my home and the speed of my car. This pursuit became my compass, guiding every decision I made. It was a powerful and demanding guide, one that rarely allowed for detours or pauses to admire the view along the way. Now, from this quiet vantage point, I see the path I took with a different kind of clarity. The years have a way of clearing the fog. They show you the landscapes you rushed past, the people you waved to from a speeding window but never stopped for. I see the moments that were offered to me like precious gifts, moments I set aside for a later that never quite arrived. There were birthday parties missed, for late-night meetings, and school plays I only heard about. I told myself it was all for a greater purpose, for a secure and prosperous future. This journey of reflection is not born from sadness. Instead, it comes from a place of peace. It is the gentle unfolding of a truth that took me nearly 6 decades to fully embrace. It is the understanding that the map I was using for most of my life was drawn by someone else. It led to a destination that looked grand and impressive from a distance. But as I got closer, I realized the place was empty. The treasure I had spent a lifetime gathering was not the kind that could warm a heart or fill a quiet room with laughter. This is the story of how I learned to draw my own map. My biggest mistakes were not grand failures or dramatic collapses. They were quiet and small, a series of tiny choices that stacked up over the years. They were the no, I can't, when my son asked me to play catch because I had one more email to send. They were the maybe next time when my wife wanted to take a simple walk after dinner because a conference call was looming. Each small sacrifice for my career felt necessary at the time. I convinced myself that these were the building blocks of a secure future, the price of admission to a life of comfort for my family. I chased money with a relentless energy. I believed it was the key to everything. With enough money, I thought I could solve any problem. I could buy happiness, I could buy time, I could buy security. It became a game, and I was determined to win. The numbers on a screen became more real to me than the warmth of my wife's hand or the sound of my son's laughter. I was building a fortress of wealth, but I was building it around myself. I was so focused on constructing the walls that I didn't realize I was trapping myself inside, alone. The pursuit of more became a habit, an addiction. I would reach a goal, a certain salary or a promotion, and feel a fleeting moment of satisfaction. But it would vanish almost instantly, replaced by the need to strive for the next target. The joy was never in the having, it was always in the getting. This constant chase left me perpetually exhausted and disconnected from the present moment. I was living in a future that was always just out of reach, a tomorrow where I would finally have enough to relax and be happy. But tomorrow, as I learned, is a horizon that recedes as you approach it. My relationships began to feel the strain of my absence, even when I was physically present. I was at the dinner table, but my mind was in the office. I was on vacation, but my thoughts were tethered to the stock market. I was a ghost in my own home, a provider of things but not of presence. I offered my family a beautiful house, but I failed to help make it a home filled with shared experiences. I gave them security in the form of money, but I withheld the most valuable asset I had, my time and my undivided attention. It was a trade I made without understanding its true cost. The turning point for me was not a dramatic event. There was no single moment of crisis or loss that shook me awake. It was far quieter than that. It was on a Tuesday afternoon, a day like any other. I was in my large, silent office, staring at a spreadsheet that represented a significant financial gain. I had just closed a deal I had been working on for months. I should have been ecstatic. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt nothing. Just a profound and hollow emptiness that echoed in the quiet of the room. The numbers on the screen were cold and meaningless. In that hollow moment, my mind drifted. I didn't think about the next deal or the next investment. I thought about my father. I remembered him teaching me how to ride a bicycle in the park, his patient hand on the back of the seat. I remembered the smell of the sawdust in his small workshop and the proud smile on his face when we built a simple birdhouse together. He was not a wealthy man by any measure. He worked a modest job his entire life. Yet, my memories of him were rich, vibrant, and filled with a deep sense of love and connection that no amount of money could ever buy. That simple memory was the crack in the dam. It was the beginning of a quiet revolution in my soul. I started to see the world through new eyes. I looked around my grand house and saw not a symbol of success, but a collection of empty rooms. I looked at my expensive possessions and saw things that required maintenance and insurance, not things that brought me joy. The wealth I had worked so hard to accumulate suddenly felt like a burden, a heavy anchor that had kept me from sailing on the true seas of life. It was a startling and deeply humbling realization. From that day forward, I began to make small changes. I started leaving the office at 5 o'clock no matter what. I turned off my phone during dinner. I asked my wife if she wanted to go for that walk, and I listened, truly listened, when she spoke. I called my son, not to talk about his career, but to ask about his day and to tell him I was proud of the man he had become. These were not grand gestures, but they were the first steps on a new path, a path leading away from the cold fortress of wealth and toward the warmth of human connection. The greatest lesson my 58 years have taught me is this. True wealth is not measured in dollars, but in moments. It is the collection of memories you gather, the love you share, and the simple joys you notice along the way. It is the feeling of the morning sun on your face. It is the sound of rain against the window pane when you are safe and warm inside. It is the taste of a home-cooked meal shared with someone you love. These are the treasures of a life well lived. They cannot be bought, sold, or stored in a vault. They can only be experienced. I have learned to find happiness in the small, quiet corners of my day. My ambition has not vanished, but it has changed its focus. Now, I am ambitious about being a better husband, a more present father, a kinder neighbor. I am ambitious about creating good memories, both for myself and for the people I care about. My goal is no longer to accumulate more things, but to experience more life. I find more fulfillment in planting a small vegetable garden than I ever did in closing a big business deal. The simple act of watching something grow is a miracle I missed for far too long. If I could offer you one piece of advice, it would be this. Do not postpone your happiness. Do not wait for a future moment when you have enough money, enough success, or enough time. That moment may never come. Happiness is here, now, waiting for you in the ordinary fabric of your daily life. It is in the conversation with a friend, the shared laughter over a joke, the quiet comfort of a shared silence. Please do not trade these priceless moments for the promise of a treasure that has no real value. Build a life, not just a resume. My journey is far from over, but the road ahead looks different now. It is brighter, calmer, and filled with a sense of gentle purpose. I hope my story does not sound like a warning, but rather like an invitation. An invitation to look at your own life, at your own path, and to ask yourself what you are truly chasing. Seek a wealth that enriches your soul. Build a fortune of love, kindness, and beautiful memories. That is a legacy that will endure. It is a richness that will bring you a comfort and a peace that money can never hope to provide.